Well, welcome back, everyone. That was a beautiful snapshot of how lucky we are to live in such an incredible country. Hope you all had a beautiful lunch. Delicious food here at the Glass House. I think we're all having a good time, aren't you? Yeah, that's good. You're nice and relaxed. We haven't even brought out the gin yet, Stu, and they're feeling pretty good. That's still to come. I'm going to nag as a school teacher again about your little feedback forms. So just as you're going along, so that you don't get to the end of the day and I know what you're going to do, you're all going to fly outside for drinks and you're going to forget about your forms. So please fill them out as we go along. And we've had a great day so far, really, really interesting topics. I'm hoping that you're all getting something for each of your businesses and what you do in this wonderful industry. And we've got more to come, which is really exciting. So now we're going to be talking about using the right digital channels to reach the Chinese traveller. We've heard so much this morning about how important it is to be engaging the Chinese market, both now and in the future. Oh, can I just put maybe first of all, just let me know if you're okay with the temperature in here now? Much better. Thank you, everyone. Apparently it's at 24 degrees, so we're all good. But if it gets a bit chilly, just please let me know and we can always adjust it. So Australia is now the 4th most desirable destination for Chinese tourists, leaping up the bucket list from 10th position in just 2 years. So what are the best digital channels to engage with Chinese travellers throughout their journey, from their first engagement all the way through to the very crucial step of booking their experience? Nicolas Chu is the CEO and founder of Sinorbis, a platform that helps Australian organisations with digital marketing in China. And prior to Sinorbis, Nicolas was the global president of Hotel Club and eBookers, and he's also spent 8 years at Expedia, holding executive positions in Europe and Asia Pacific. Can you please welcome Nicolas Chu?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me today. I'm really excited to be here. First, to enjoy the coffee in Melbourne, which is better than in Sydney, but also there are some Sydney ciders. But also to be able to speak and talk about 2 things that I'm really passionate about. The first one being the Chinese digital ecosystem. So passionate about it that I decided to found Sinorbis a couple of years ago, but also travel, as I spent 15 years in the travel industry. As Gorgie mentioned, I used to be the managing director of Expedia here, but also worked for Orbit, so very happy to be able to share a little bit more with you today. Before starting to delve into the details, I'd like to say a few words about Sinorbis. And I'm just going to show a very quick introduction video to talk about it.
The world's largest online market is also the most difficult to crack. China. It has over 750 million internet users. That's a quarter of the world's online population. The problem is, the Chinese internet regulation, known as the Great Firewall, has filtered out popular websites such as Google and Facebook, allowing for the emergence of a parallel digital ecosystem. The indirect consequence is that most Western websites are being completely locked out of China. Or if they do get through, they aren't optimised for Chinese search engines or integrated with Chinese social media channels. That's where Sinorbis comes in. Our all-in-one marketing software makes digital marketing in China as easy as it is at home. Easily build a website and landing pages that are fully optimised for the Chinese digital ecosystem, without having to jump the usual regulatory and technical hurdles or knowing how to code. Use one of our beautiful templates or create a site from scratch with our drag and drop tools. You can even translate your copy as you go. Set up and manage your company's WeChat account, all from within the same easy-to-use platform. Our analytics dashboard and AI-powered recommendations give you the insights you need to outrank your competitors on China's 4 major search engines, meaning improved awareness and better conversion for your brand. Sinorbis gives you the tools you need to capitalise on the once-in-a-century opportunity that is China. Request a demo today and connect your business to the world's largest online market.
So I founded Sinorbis a couple of years ago because I actually experienced firsthand how difficult it was to go after the Chinese market. And I noticed that there was no tools to close this gap between the demand in China and the rest of the world. So since then, we have quite a few clients in different industries. Tourism and travel is a very important one for us. We have a few clients, a few hotel chains, Sydney Airport, and others. But enough about Sinorbis. What I'd like to do now is to talk about the Chinese traveler and especially his or her journey. And then also provide you with some recommendations how and what are the best ways to target the Chinese travelers. So I would like you to meet Wang Huifang, who is the typical Chinese traveler. She is in her 30s. She has a young family and a young daughter. They both work. They are part of what we describe as being the affluence and upper middle class. They are, more and more cash rich and time poor. She is the one who is making the decision within the family in terms of travel. She usually also have a tendency to travel more by herself. And for those in the audience who have been in the travel industry for quite some time, you might remember that 10 years ago it was really different. 10 years ago it used to be the traditional tour organized with buses and Chinese and a guide with his flag. This is still the case in certain areas, but it's more and more FIT. There's a less and less differences between the Chinese traveler and the Australian travelers. They will still be organizing a couple of days of package tours to go to a specific destination once they are in the country. Usually the booking window is around 3 to 4 months in advance, especially for long haul. And and what she does mainly is using her mobile like any other Chinese consumer to do almost everything. Like 80% of the Chinese consumers, she is using her mobile to search, book, and read reviews. The top travel periods in China are the Chinese New Year, as you know, in February, but also the Golden Week in October. For this part of the world, for Australia, Chinese New Year is usually preferred, first and foremost because the time is a little bit longer, the duration is a little bit longer, but also because it's a perfect time, the weather is still nice here in Australia. She will be spending a big chunk, as you saw this morning, a big chunk of her budget into shopping. Accommodation represents 20% and dining around 16%. And obviously, she will be selecting her destination based on the uniqueness, the attractions, and the safety. So while she is searching and looking where she could actually be going, she will be looking at WeChat official account. So for those who don't know what a WeChat official account is, it's like a Facebook page. She will be following, a few WeChat official accounts related to travel, such as Flickr, for instance. She will be looking also at travel research apps. So in China, you also have TripAdvisor, like here, TripAdvisor China, but you have very popular websites such as Mafanguo or Chunyo, for instance, where you can actually read reviews all around the world, and I will say a few words about those channels in a moment. Last but not least, she will be heavily relying on referrals and advice, and you will see that throughout her journey, she's really always referring to reviews, ranking, referrals, which is very, very important. In the travel industry, reviews, as you know, are very important. But just to give you a sense of how important it is for a Chinese traveler will rely 3 to 4 times more on reviews than an American traveler. So very, very important. Once she has decided to go to Australia, she will be booking her flights. She will be checking, the largest OTA in China, Ctrip. She will also be looking at Tuna, which is the largest meta search website in China, similar to Skyscanner. She booked her flight. With her flight, she can apply for a visa. It's quite actually very easy for a Chinese traveler to apply for a visa. She will be searching on Baidu, the largest search engines in China, how she can apply for a visa. She will be reading articles on Mafanguo, again, travel research, and then ultimately go on the official websites to see that actually it's quite easy. She can do everything online. This is really new. The Australian government, did a lot to simplify the whole process, and it takes maximum 1 to 2 weeks to get her visa. When she has her visa, she's going to look at where to stay. Again, she will be looking at Ctrip. Citrin being the largest OTA in China, to have a sense, but it's mainly domestic, so she will also be looking at international online travel agencies such as Booking.com or even Airbnb that is becoming more and more popular amongst the upper middle class and affluents in China. Once she decided to stay, downtown Sydney, she's going to look at what she can do. So again, she goes back to Huifang, sees a great article on the cinefish market. So she decides to read the reviews, very positive reviews, and she said, well, I should have a look. So goes on Baidu, type and search for the cinefish market, see the first results, which is a website in English. That's okay, she does speak English, so she can go and then click on it and wait. And she waits. And still wait. Up to 3 minutes, actually, to load the page. And this is a common issue, and I'm going to talk about it, not only for cinefish market. Even if your content is not blocked in China, unless your website has been built in a way that can be fully optimized to go through what we call the Great Firewall, which is filtering out popular channels such as Google, Facebook, and Twitter, but also filtering out content. If you haven't built your website in such a way that can be visible, then it's most likely that your site is not going to be visible. So a little bit disappointed, she searched again, then found another article on Bridge Climb, great reviews as well, go on Baidu. This time, she sees that there's a Chinese official website. She clicks on it, and she found the official websites, Chinese official websites of Bridge Climb, and she can see that she can book the activity and even pay with Alipay, which is the major form of payment, one of the major forms of payment in China, similar to PayPal. She books her ticket, very happy, decides to fly. It's February, she comes to Sydney, and then she arrives in Sydney. And in Sydney, a little bit jet lagged, 13 hours. She still sees a massive advertising for Swiss, for the Chinese New Year at the Sydney airport. For the anecdote, this is a real advertising. Actually, I just came back from Asia, and I saw that, so I said I should actually definitely include that in my presentation. And the first thing that she will be doing is searching on Baidu, how and where she can buy some vitamins, Swiss vitamins. Then she will be looking at where to eat, checking, travel research sites such as Dianping. Dianping is a big and large lifestyle portal. It's a fusion between Groupon and Yelp, used a lot by Chinese travelers to select where to go, where to buy. In China, you can do almost a bunch of different things like ordering food. They even launch financial services. Or TripAdvisor China, she will see reviews, positive reviews on certain restaurants, and negative reviews. Again, reviews, referral, as I said, super important for the decision-making process. Then she will be starting to share her experiences. And once she did all this, providing comments on her WeChat moments. So the WeChat moments it's similar to a wall, the Facebook wall, where she will be posting, where she went, posting some reviews, writing some reviews on the hotels, reviews that will be, again, read by someone else for their decision-making process. Okay, so this is the whole journey of Huifang. She moving from awareness really to consideration, action, loyalty. The whole idea being how you can move from a stranger, someone who doesn't know your brand, to an advocate. And throughout this process, going back to what I just said, she will first checking official WeChat account. She will browse travel research websites. She will refer to friends to get some advice. Then, moving more to the lead to a prospect phase, she will start searching using search, Baidu, but we will see also other search engines. Follow official social media account, search and check reviews on travel websites, super important, TripAdvisor, Huifang, Junyo. She will also finally book on the official site or an OTA or the hotel's website, and then hopefully become an advocate and share her experience again. So that's the whole journey of the Chinese travelers. What I'd like to do now is to provide with the recommendations. Now that we have seen together what are the different steps, I would like to provide you with 4 recommendations. The first one is to leverage the Chinese travel digital channels. As you know, as I mentioned, this regulation called the Great Firewall, has been limiting the access of popular channels that you are using to promote your brands, such as Google, Facebook, Twitter, Wikipedia, and has favored the emergence of a completely different online ecosystems that you have to learn how to work with. Obviously, in the travel industry, you have Ctrip, Tuna, Booking.com for international hotels, Tuyu, which is one of the largest sites for packages. And then on the second row, you have everything related to travel research. The first one is Trunyo. As you can see, the URL spells differently from the pronunciation. Great sites where you can have a lot of reviews, a lot of tips, advice, recommendations, rankings, used a lot by the Chinese travelers. The second one is Meituan Dianping. Dianping, as I said, is, I describe it as a lifestyle portal where you can do almost everything. You can book, you can order some food, you can check where to go in terms of restaurants and so forth. The third one is Mafanguo. Mafanguo is the first user-generated website in China. It used to be a portal for blogs that people were using a lot to get information. And the two founders actually decided to transform this business into the first, I think it's the first in the world, OTA, where the content is 100% user-generated. A very interesting model, used a lot for seeking information when people are traveling. And the last one, obviously, TripAdvisor, that is still very popular in China. The second recommendation, as we saw, is to build a website that is visible in China. It sounds obvious, but the Cinefish market case is not unique. We analyze the ASX 300 websites, the top 500 private Australian companies' websites, and 2,000 other companies, and we can confirm that 94% of them are not visible in China. 98% have poor or no localization for China, and 89% are not optimized for the search engines. So we always forget about this aspect because it's so obvious. If you have a website here, it's most likely this website is going to be visible in France or in the UK or in the US. But it's almost certain that it won't be visible in China. And even if you spend time to localize it in simplified Chinese, this is not enough. So that's really a big issue. I'm giving you an example of one of our clients, so Sydney Airport. This is the loading time from China. You don't have to speak Chinese to understand that red is bad and green is good, of their English websites. And so they decided to build a fully localized website, fully responsive, for the Chinese travelers, and this is the results that now they have. Very, very important. Okay, another thing that is worth mentioning is really to leverage the power of search. Most likely, as a consumer or as a traveler, you use Google to search. And we always forget that actually it's the same thing in China. Search remains a very important channel. For 90% of Chinese consumers, Chinese travelers, they actually use search in their decision-making, and this will influence the decision. And like here, you have Baidu, which is the main search engines in China. But unlike Australia, where we only have Google, in China, you also have other search engines. And we usually speak a little bit less about them, but they are quite interesting. And as you will see, some of them are really big. The number 2 is Sogo. Sogo has 525 million active users. Sogo is backed by Tencent. Tencent is the company that is behind WeChat. Sogo became very popular in China because everyone was using the input system, allowing to type characters through phonetics using pinyin. And guess what? The search engine by default of this tool was the Sogo search engine. So Chinese consumers started to use more and more Sogo, and now they have a base of 525 million. The third search engine is 360. 360 is the search engine, the default search engine for the browser. The browser's name is 360 as well, which is used a lot in desktop. And the third one is Shenma. Shenma is actually almost unknown here, but Shenma is quite big in China. It is actually the second largest search engine for mobile in China. It belongs to Alibaba, that you know. It has 300 million active users, and Shenma is actually quite interesting because it focuses only on mobile, and it's actually quite cheaper than Baidu. So 4 search engines that you can leverage. How to be well ranked on Baidu, Sogou, 360, or Shenma? Well, it's fairly similar to what you have to do to be well ranked here on Google, with specificities related to China. Obviously, the loading time is very important. The content, it has to be in simplified Chinese. It's even better if you manage to set up an entity in China and have what we call an ICP numbers, but usually the rest is very similar to Google. Okay, we can't really talk about promoting your brand without talking about WeChat. And you heard this name a lot today. WeChat, if you download WeChat here, you will say, well, I don't know what the buzz, what's all this about, because it's just another chat app, like similar to WhatsApp, which is true outside of China. It's actually just a regular chatting app. Within China, it's a whole ecosystem. You can do almost everything with WeChat. More importantly, you can actually pay for everything with WeChat. You can order food, you can share reviews. WeChat has now 1.1 billion users worldwide. 1.1 billion users worldwide. Last year, WeChat was representing 30% of all the time spent on mobile in China. There's no other app like this in China, and I don't think there will be another app like this. 30% is huge. 2/3 are actually logging more than 10 times a day. And interestingly enough, it contributed to $1.7 billion in lifestyle spending. So a huge importance, huge app. Out of the 1.1 billion users, you have 100 million outside of China. And in Australia, we have estimated that it's between 1 to 2 million users already for people living here. So a very important app to communicate with the Chinese community. So what can you do with WeChat? First and foremost, you need to have what we call an official account. An official account is like a Facebook page. A few years ago, you only had 2 options to have an official account. Either you were a Chinese company and you were obliged to have a license in China, and you could apply for what we call a domestic account. And this domestic account was allowing you, and still allows you, to target the Chinese audience in China, and is not limited in terms of features. There was another type of account, the international accounts. Those were for the international companies. The issue with those accounts is that you couldn't actually target the Chinese audience in China, only the Chinese audience outside of China, so those 100 million that I just referred to. Tencent launched a new type of accounts last year called the universal accounts. The universal accounts they're trying to make it the best of both worlds. They allow you to target Chinese audience in China without the need of having a business license in China. It's still a little bit limited in terms of features, but you have access to almost all the features, and you can have it with your international business license. And there are ways how you can apply for it. Right now, you can't apply directly for a universal account in most countries, but as a matter of fact, yesterday, Tencent just announced that in certain countries, companies or organizations can apply by themselves for this type of account. In Macau, in Taiwan, in Hong Kong, in Korea, and in Japan. So we expect that this will come to Australia, the UK, Europe, and the US very soon. But right now, if you want to apply for this type of account, you have to go through third parties, either a payments solution provider or an agency. But this type of account allows you to be visible in China without having to set up an entity there. So let's take an example of a WeChat official account, Sin Airport again. As you can see, you have, I don't think there's a pointer here. As you can see, you have the post at the top where you can publish your content. You have a menu at the bottom. You can display, all the information that you want. It's, much more advanced than a Facebook page. It's across a Facebook page and a website. You can give some indication on the service. You can, indicate some map. FAQ, and more importantly for Sydney Airport, talk about the sales and promotions, where to shop, where to eat, and the tax and the tax refund and tips. If you click to one of those menu items, you will be redirected to their Chinese, fully responsive website. That will be loaded within WeChat, because WeChat, as I said, is an ecosystem. You can actually browse, you can even buy through WeChat, and you can do e-commerce as well, because it's within this ecosystem. Okay, which type of content? Very similar to Facebook. This is a research published by Tencent. Obviously, the content has to be useful. It sounds pretty obvious. Interesting as well. But what is interesting is also the importance of pictures and videos. Pictures are even more important than text, and videos are very close behind. The best time to publish on WeChat are between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. Bear in mind that China is 3 to 2 hours behind us. So if you want to target in the morning, obviously you have to start publishing at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. Okay, so to summarize, really, it is very important to leverage the local Chinese travel digital channels. To build a website that is visible in China, optimized for this market, to leverage the power of search, very, very important, and obviously leverage WeChat and really this whole ecosystem that allows you to not only target Chinese consumers, but also to have a one-on-one relationship and communication with them. That's it for me today. If you'd like to learn more, you can actually download our white paper. We publish a white paper every year on the travel, a free white paper on the Chinese traveler. You can send me an email. This is my email address. This is my Twitter handle. And if you have WeChat, you can scan this massive QR code and be connected to me whenever you want. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right there.
I say it.
Thank you, Nicolas. And I noticed a lot of you were taking shots of the screens. I will remind you too that we are filming each of the speeches, and they'll be available on Tourism Australia's corporate website. So don't stress if you're not getting anything, because you can re-watch them and reconnect with them. That was fascinating. It made me realise how little I understand about the technology in China. Question I've got before we jump to a couple in the room: how much do you think that the Chinese digital landscape will change, though? Am I likely to get my head around WeChat and then suddenly it's going to change?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I've been in the online industry for 20 years. I've never seen a market like China that is evolving so fast. To give you a sense, every quarter they release a new ad format. WeChat is here for good. I don't think that's a fad, not with 1.1 billion users. 6 years ago, WeChat was nowhere. Now it's the major app. But while the last 10 years were all about the three main players known as BAT, Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, now we have seen the emergence of new players like Toutiao, which is a news aggregator, growing exponentially. They bought for those who have kids, you probably have heard about Musical.ly, this social media network, which is all about, I discovered it with my daughter not a long time ago. Anyway, it belongs to Toutiao. They also bought News Republic. Their valuation is around 20 billion. You have Dianping, that is growing massively, 30 billion valuation. Dianping allows to book everything that I mentioned, order food. It's a Yelp Groupon on steroids. And you have Didi, that is the local Uber that you probably have heard, that won the war, in China against Uber. I think Didi is now the second largest, most valued private company at $50 billion. So you start seeing new players, and like Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent, they're starting actually to expand in different areas, like Dianping, who just launched financial services. So things will change for sure.
So if you've got the budget, given this is such a lucrative market to come, I mean, I look at what you're doing there and I think, wow, I'd need to dedicate so many resources to that. I'd need to dedicate at least a staff member or two to get on top of that. Yeah. So if you've got the budget, though, because it is going to work, and I'm not just plugging your company here, but it probably is worth getting someone to do that for your company, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And to be honest, I mean, 60% of our clients are asking us to do it. So.
Are you flat out now?
No, it's okay. But.
Oh, you got. He still wants more business. Yeah, good answer.
We still welcome new businesses, but It's interesting. I think it's not one of this industry where you can just give a tool such as Salesforce or HubSpot and then you play with it and that's it. You need to educate the market. You need to help. We help a lot of our customers. Just building a website needs to be adapted. Localizing a website goes beyond just translating it into simplified Chinese. The way how they browse is different. The fact that it's quite common, after a browsing session in China that you have like 1,000 of tabs open because each time that you click on the new link, it actually opens a new tab, which is really different from what we have here. So you need to be aware of all this in order to really adapt your product to the Chinese market. But yes, I think ultimately it is important to have someone who speaks Chinese. I always say you can use our platform and it's great, but if you start receiving some messages or comments or queries and you don't know what this person is talking about, you're going to be in trouble. Ultimately, it's great. The best solution is to be on the ground, but this has a cost because you need to set up an entity, a wholly owned foreign entity, apply for licenses. So, usually what we advise is to test the waters first, see if it works. If it works, you can invest more, and then having people on the ground and starting to work with local companies.
And I know I again come back to Sovereign Hill, but they have an office in China where people can go and try on all the old costumes and get a taste for the whole experience before they commit to booking in Australia, which has proved enormously successful. We're almost out of time, but we'd love some questions. Yes, someone's already got their hand up. Ready for the, are you ready? Catch.
My name's Tim Parsons. I'm a farmer from Tasmania. I was just wondering if you're able to comment on the marketing advantages or the pros and cons of online payment as a marketing edge for China, WeChat Pay.
So Tim, your question is, what is the competitive advantage to offer Chinese form of payments? Is that correct? Or
sorry,
was your question about what is the competitive advantage to offer a Chinese form of payment?
Yes.
Yeah. Huge. It's huge. It's quite interesting to see how China has evolved from a cash society. So Visa has never been very, very strong in China. UnionPay used to be the main form of payments, which is the local credit card. But over the last 5 years, Alipay developed the equivalent of PayPal that everyone used. And now, because everyone is using WeChat, literally everyone is using also WeChat Pay to pay for everything. And it has reached this stage that, and it also gives up a little bit of my age, but I was last time in China with a lot of millennials, and I was in a cab, and the cab was not accepting in China WeChat Pay. And the guys were terrified. They didn't know what to do because they didn't have any cash. And I was the old guy with my cash, and I was able to pay for them. But that shows a little bit the shift of how things are done. So for sure, obviously, if you don't offer those form of payments, if they come to Australia, they will most likely have cash to pay for it. But it simplifies the whole process because it's very easy. They scan your QR code, and immediately, it debit their account, and it credit yours. So it's something, I think it has the highest mobile payment penetration in the world now. It's really massive, more than everywhere else, more than Apple Pay, more than in the US. Everyone literally is using either Alipay or WeChat Pay.
Another question before we go? No? That was really, really helpful and very informative, Nicolas. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
To everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.